I'm Simon Holst and this is Everyday Easy, and today I'm going to show you just how easy it is to make some bread using a bread machine and some of the things you can do with it. First thing is get a dough going. So take the insert out of your bread machine and going to add some yeast. First of all, we've got this plain sort of beigey one, which is instant active dried yeast, and then we've got a sort of either sometimes called shore bake or bread machine yeast. And just for something different in this yeast, in this bread, I'm going to use some of both. So I'm going to use 2 teaspoons of the instant active, just half a teaspoon of the bread machine yeast. For this recipe, I don't want too fine a texture. It's really interesting, if you use just the bread machine yeast, you get a bread with very fine little bubbles. I quite like to get a bit of texture, so hence I'm using more of the other. And just a little bit of the improvers to help the bread go. So then I've got 3/4 cup of milk and going to add half a cup of boiling water. And that makes a nice lukewarm mixture, which is a good temperature to get the yeast up and going. So also to help the yeast along, I'm going to add a couple of teaspoons of sugar and also 1.5 teaspoons of salt. You know, salt is important in bread making, not just because it improves the flavour, but it does also change the consistency of the dough. You don't add salt, you get a very, very sticky sort of mixture. And then we're going to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil. The key to getting bread right is to actually measure things. If you don't measure, it'll never work for you. You can see we've got all our liquids in there, and now we're just going to add the flour. What we want is 3 cups, or 420 grams, even better if you want to weigh your flour, because the density of flour varies a lot. If I scoop the flour into the measuring cup like that, what I'll probably wind up with is about 190 grams of flour in there. On the other hand, if I just spoon it in so it's lightly packed, which is actually what we want, we'll get a cup of flour that weighs about 140 grams. So that's a substantial difference. So just, you know, level it off. So like I say 140 grams each, that'll give you a total of 420 grams of flour. So that is your basic dough mixture. It's going into the machine, and I'm going to set it to the dough cycle and start, and that's it. Okay, so the cycle's finished now and we've got our dough. So I'm going to take the dough. What I'm going to make today is a nice focaccia loaf. So I'm going to take a baking tray. I've lined it with baking paper just to make cleaning up easier. Going to add a bit of oil, and that gets my hand oily as well, which isn't a bad thing, as it helps stop the dough sticking. And I'm just going to tip the dough out onto the tray. Pop that over there. And just going to shape this a little bit. We don't have to do too much at this stage. Just give it a bit more oil. And just sort of pat that into a sort of oblong shape, around about 20 by 30 centimetres or so. What we're going to do now is let our dough rise. So the way I like to do it is actually use my oven, pop this in there, take that one out and put the new one in. The other thing I've done is got a pan of water in the oven, and just like I say, nice and humid. You know, after sort of 40 to 60 minutes your dough's all ready to go. This dough's been in there for around about an hour, and you can see it's risen really nicely. Actually now poke a few finger holes in it. I like a nice sprinkle of flaky salt, and then some herbs. Almost everyone have a bit of rosemary in their garden. Just sprinkle the top, drizzle with a little bit more oil. Just going to pop that in the oven for sort of really hot oven for 12 to 15 minutes. But the other thing you can do to it, why I call it my all-purpose loaf, is that's actually the dough I use for pizzas most often. So rather than just making one big focaccia loaf, I just divide it in two, roll each half out to fill pretty much one of those trays. Add the toppings you like, and you know, away you go. You don't even have to rise the pizza dough again, it just goes straight in the oven. Now we've got our finished loaf. Here's one, it's been baked for, like I say, 12 to 15 minutes, come out of the oven, lovely golden brown. So there you go, it's as simple as that. Your bread machine does all the hard work, you just get to sit back and enjoy the fruits of not very much labour.